morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are listening. Thank you so much for being here live or listening on KGCI radio or watching on YouTube or wherever you may be getting this podcast slash vodcast. So I am Sara Delansig. This is Keeping It Real Estate. And today we have a special guest. I'm really excited about this. So we got Devante. I accidentally hit my mute button. Technical difficulties. So I am going to talk to Devante about his book, Just One Layup, which is real estate related, because if you look on the back, it says achieve real estate victory with this comprehensive playbook for success, building the playbook for real estate success. So Devante, thank you so much for being here. Excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Right on, right on. Okay, so we're going to go through this, but I have to housekeeping items really quick. In case I lose, in case I disappear, hopefully Devante will still be here, but there is a severe wind warning in effect and my lights were kind of flickering. So it is possible that I may lose power. If that happens, Devante is a professional. He speaks at a lot more events than I do, so he can take it from there. But, and then another thing, I might be coughing too, or my dogs might bark. Who knows? We do work from home in this post-COVID world, right? So sometimes things happen, and my son is home today too. So, hopefully all of that will not happen and this will go smoothly. But just in case, now you know what's up.
There we
All right.
go.
Okay, so Devante, you are a national speaker. You are an acclaimed real estate agent up in Bellingham. You also are fluent in Spanish, which I think is really important in case any of you are ever stuck in a cab with him in Miami, where most of the cab or an Uber or Lyft, in a rideshare. Just know that this man speaks fluent Spanish, and you don't need to use Google Translate for 20 minutes until he finally speaks up about it, just so you know.
Oh gosh, I feel like there's a funny story behind that, but we don't need to do it today.
I know. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just to know, in case you meet him at an event or something, he does speak Spanish. You don't need to embarrass yourself.
Oh,
Just ask him to handle that, and I'm sure he would be much obliged.
indeed. That's great.
All right, my guys. So, how long have you been in real estate?
Wow. So I've been in real estate for just short of 5 years. So 4 years and a whole slew of months.
See, some people would consider you kind of a baby agent, kind of like me too.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I think experience definitely matters, but not necessarily like length in real estate, but how many transactions you do, and I think that should be a barometer, not your years of service.
I would agree. Sometimes people get disillusioned when they're in it for so long, like they've been doing it for so long, they can't adapt to the changes. And I do think that it helps, as you grow as a real estate agent, to always look at what's out there, what the newbies are doing, especially if they're rising to the level that you've risen to, where you've written this amazing book. And just so you guys know, it is called Just One Layup. And I mentioned this earlier, but it is mostly about his journey into real estate, which he's also a very private person, but this is a very personal book. And I found myself relating to it in so many ways. Did you say the youngest? I think it was the youngest of 20 children.
I'm actually the oldest of 20 children. Yeah, I have 19 siblings.
19 siblings. Okay. And this was not a television show or anything like that, although it probably could have been. And I say that I am the youngest of 6, and I thought that was extreme and outrageous. So I kind of understand though what it's like to be in a large household, to grow up kind of similar to you did. I also worked in the restaurant industry and things like that. So you talk about this in your book, and you talk about how eventually you go and you look into real estate. So I really like this part. Let me see if I can find this. Because I think all of the agents that are listening to this right now, whether you're experienced, whether you're thinking about it, whether you've been in it for a long time, whatever the case may be, this was one of my favorite parts of the book that I read. And you say, think about your ideal life in 5 years. If you're in real estate, perhaps your goal is to make 60 sales a year and earn over $200,000. When you start to envision that life, go deeper. What strengths and qualities do you have that would help people choose to work with you? What makes you special and different from other agents? So now that you've been 5 years and some months and change in the industry, what would you say? How would you answer that question just to give people kind of an idea?
Yeah, it's such a great question because a lot of us, when you get into real estate, a lot of people wear so many different hats, right? They want to be the marketer, they want to be the social media person, they want to be the door knocker and the cold caller. And really, we've all heard it, right? The riches are in the niches. And so I'd say really just be yourself. That in and of itself is a niche nowadays, right? People will love authenticity. You don't have to be selling sunset or, like you don't have to be.
I don't know that that's authentic, but
Exactly to my point. And so, one thing that I think really helps me out in my real estate endeavors is who you see online is who's going to knock on your door. Like I'm the same guy. I love to have a good time. We're going to laugh. We're going to have a good time and we're going to get stuff done. And so I would say that my superpower, if you will, is just being myself. And genuinely, I have a heart to make people laugh on a daily basis. And this is probably for 90% of the people out there, the biggest purchase of their life, right? And so it's already stressful in and of itself. Well, how do we go in there and set ourselves apart? Well, I'm not going to go in there and like, oh my gosh, you're stressed. I'm stressed too. No, I'm going to take over with calmness, with, hey, let's have a good time. And why are you really doing this? And just be a person with that person instead of being a robot. Hey, I'm going to help you sell your house and you'll never hear from me again. Oftentimes my clients turned into really good friends, and so I got really specific on who I wanted to service, who I work best with, and that's in the book as well. I don't think you're in those chapters just yet. You got to keep reading it. Slight plug, but knowing who you are intrinsically, knowing your ideal client, and then building processes and everything around those two things so that you can replicate. So that's.
absolutely. So that is so as you know, or as most of you know, I own an ISA company, not trying to plug it right now, very busy. But anyways, if you guys want to know, that's what I do. I make phone calls for a living for real estate agents. And I have this issue too, where I'm trying to teach people how to be authentic, how to be a human, how to have an authentic conversation. And I find it so strange because I'm like, how do you do that? You are also a real estate coach, which is very apparent throughout the book. I mean, you are definitely coaching and really bringing your life experience into everything, which is why I think this book, like every chapter, I'm like, that's such a good nugget. That's such like good information. This is exactly what people need to hear, right? So how do you coach that when you've come across somebody who may not even know who they are authentically, so they don't know how to do it?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have an amazing tribe, if you will, raise me, right? This was not my own doing. I had an amazing, my great grandparents were in my lives, my grandparents were in my lives, all my parents, like it's just my uncles, aunts. So a lot of people helped me become who I am. And I've been pretty secure in who I am for a very long time. But I mean, that comes with the territory of being the oldest of 20, but also, one little nugget was my mom actually had me at a very young age, at 15.
Mhm.
So one of my aunts is only 19 and a half months older than me, right? So it was almost as if my mom had me so young that I was the youngest of, my aunts and uncles, as if I was just their brother and sister. But then I had a slew of brothers and sisters that came after me. So you had to be secure in who you were, right? And honestly, if I were to teach somebody, hey, okay, be who you are, I would have you kind of replay your life, right?
Mhm.
Those when you were sailing, when you were doing like when you were just crushing it, like who were you? What made you happy? Like what were you doing? What were you in your flow state? Like those things, like hey, what were you doing? What were your natural things? And then when you're in crappy situations, what were your tendencies as well? Right. Because that can tell us a lot about ourselves as well. And then who do you attract on
Mhm.
a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? Like when you're out there, you're just minding your business, being who you are. If somebody were to come up and talk to you, who is that person? What is their avatar, if you will? And then we break it down from there. And so it's again going back to knowing yourself very well. I would also suggest you take the disc assessment. I'm a high I, right? So if
Mhm.
I'm a new
Same.
person, Yeah, there you go. Right, you put me in front of the. You need to feel me. You need to see me. I need to feel and see people as well.
Yeah.
And so, that plays into my playbook. My playbook is, hey, I'm going to be out in the public. I'm doing open houses. I'm doing speaking engagements. I do a lot of community events as well. And so we would start there. That'd be where we start.
Yeah, so I did get there and I love that. So you also have, if you guys want to, you can go to devanteblow.com/disc DISC, right?
Mhm.
And I also saw that you use different like I've always heard, driver, influencer, and then the other two you use support and what was the last one? I want to say clarity. Is that it?
I believe you're right.
And I
There are a slew of different.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say because I mean I know driver and influencer because I'm a 99 out of 100 on the I, and then yeah, and but it always changes. Just so you guys know, it does change. So you got to take it at different times in your life. So it's good to take it every year even. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that um that part of it is really crucial to figuring out who you were, though. The disc profile also can help a marriage. I'm not even joking. Like my husband and I took it. We are polar opposites in the way that we think, in the way that we exist in the world, like all of those things, but we also like inherently like add to one another, right? Like we complement one another. But I am more in the face of everyone, and like if both of us were to be real estate agents, he would do things a different way, and that's kind of what you bring up in here. Like you were saying, you are out there doing open houses, being in front of people because you have influence. They have to be around you and feel your energy, right? To like really get the full Devante effect, right? Which I have to agree with, by the way. You should definitely hang out with this guy at some of the events. But like my husband would be different. Like he's not going to be that guy. He might be in the background doing something else. Now, you did say making phone calls, which I don't know that a high C or a high S would be making some phone calls because they'd be scared. Not not totally. I'm not saying like, but I would put more of a high C or a high S into like an administrative role, checking boxes, if you know what I
That's
mean. But
fair. That's fair. Yeah, I suck at making phone calls too, unless it's two, and I've completely changed my business. Like, I just work with my SOI, right? Like, of course, where I have videos out there to try to attract more people, but I make 5 phone calls a day to people that know, like, and trust me, family, friends, and community members and past clients, and those are the phone calls that I make. But cold calling, oh, I'm the worst at it. I hate it. I hate it.
most people do. Most people. I hate cold calling too, just to be clear. Like there's a difference between cold calling and warm calling, but I think that's cool though. That you still do the outreach to your community. So how do you grow? Like you mentioned that you moved from one area to Bellingham, and you have to grow a community, and that's how you start, right? Like real estate is very relationship based, and there was another thing in here where, oh, I think it was right under this one where you like, oh yeah, ultimately quality conversations are the bottom line in real estate, period. No matter how many houses you're trying to sell, you start with good real estate conversations and try to connect with people every day. So that is what you're doing. But how did you do that when you're a newbie agent? First of all, I know when you're that intimidation factor of like feeling like you don't know and like nobody's going to choose you as an agent. And so you have to really be confident in who you are and what you know. And you pass the test on the first try and all that stuff, right? So how did you grow your confidence and become that person in Bellingham when you moved there?
Yeah, so confidence, we always say this, confidence is really all it is knowledge, right? If you asked me about, I don't know, being a ballerina, I am not going to be confident because I had no idea what it takes to be a ballerina. But, keeping it on the simple side, if you ask me about the Denver Broncos, I'm going to have a very confident conversation because I love and eat and breathe the Denver Broncos. Okay. Go Broncos. But so it really, I would encourage somebody if you're getting into real estate, and especially like I did in a completely different market. I moved an hour away, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you live on an island and then go to the mainland, it is completely different. And so I just got into the community because I couldn't confidently talk about, oh, this is Edgemore or this is the lettered streets because I didn't know what that was. And so I got out into the community so that I can be well versed on number one, the clientele out here. Like, what does it look like? All the way down to, for instance, Bellingham is kind of like a, I don't want to say like a hipster kind of place, but it's kind of laid back, super. It's probably, hipster before hipster was cool kind of place. And so if I show up, with a suit and tie and everything, I'm gonna miss like 99% of the people that live here. They're gonna like, whoa, dude, it's not that serious, right? And that was something that I had to learn because I came from a militaristic background where you're clean cut and everything, and you show up on time, and on time is 15 minutes early. And so I had to learn the clientele, I had to learn the area, but ultimately, I just wanted to have fun. And so I started doing, community events. Like last week, I rented out the movie theater up here. It's a Regal movie theater. And we rented out the biggest one that held 275 people. And we had 240 people, 241 people show up. And it was so awesome. Like, it had nothing to do with real estate. We watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, one of the greatest movies of all time, the one with Jim Carrey. And of course, it's going to be a win-win. It's a free event for everybody that comes. But then it had like a QR code that showed up, and you scan the QR code and I asked them 3 questions. Do you have any real estate plans in 2025? Would you like an updated valuation on your home? Do you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in 2025? And then like the 4th question was a throwaway question, like who's your favorite superhero, right? Something funny, whatever. But I got information that way, but I earned the information, right? I gave them something for free. I added value, added value, added value. And then I was like, hey, by the way, are you interested at all in making a real estate move? And so I've been doing that for the past 4 years, and that has exploded my business.
Absolutely. Well, that's what's so cool because you are building those relationships. You came to a new area, you assessed how to operate in said market, which is really crucial. A lot of people don't understand that. And like part of what I do too, when I call San Diego, it's different from when I call Seattle. They're similar, but not really. Like certain markets, you have to treat things differently. And that's what you figured out. And it's not that you're not authentic to yourself, but you just adjusted the way that you operate in that environment to make it so that you were able to, be seen and heard and develop those relationships. But then adding all that value, which a lot of people, I don't know, like people, I think agents are going to ask, how did you get 241 people to said event? Like, where do you start? Where did you grow? Like, did you join, your local chapter of Denver Bronco fans? Go Hawks, by the way. And where did you start? Like with that? Did you go to school there? Like, did you walk
Yeah,
around
no,
town?
I didn't go to school. Well, you know what? It's really, you have to do the things that you love. I fell in love with pickleball, so
Oh,
I'm entrenched in the pickleball community. I sing and play at the one of the local churches here, right? And so I'm part of that community as well. And it's not, you don't go into those communities with the idea of, oh, I'm going to sell everybody into your house. Just go and have fun, be who you are naturally, right? And then while you're having conversations, people will ask you, hey, well, what do you do? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, actually. I'm
well,
exhausted.
yeah, no, you can. So that's funny. Something that we used to teach when I sold real estate coaching was we would give them like free pointers on how they would be coached. And we would say, whenever you go to a party, always ask somebody what they do for a living or how their job is going. They will always reciprocate when they're finished talking about whatever they do. And they will say, well, what do you do for a living? Like, because they want to do the same thing. And so I think that's really important because a lot of people don't realize. And then you need to be top of mind too from that point forward. So by having the good relationships and being present and understanding your market, then adding value by inviting all the people and attending the things and being consistent, then you build your pipeline and you become the standout agent, even though you started fresh. And there are people maybe in that market that have been selling real estate for 40 years that everybody's like, this is the go-to person,
Mhm.
which was really intimidating for someone like myself when I came into it. I mean, literally in a 1 mile radius, we're talking about agents with not hundreds, but combined hundreds of years of experience. And then, and I'm trying to like stand out from it, right? But that's what you have to do is you have to stay true to yourself. You have to find the things that you love, and then it will bring you into the right rooms so that you can then have those conversations, right?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be okay with if this year it's meant for you to sell 10 houses, 10 is great. and be okay with that. Be okay with you being who you are. There's a really, really, really well-known agent in this county. Won't name his name, so you guys don't go look him up. I want you guys to use me. Um, but if I tried to be like that person, he already exists and he is crushing it in his realm, right?
Mm.
Be yourself because there's nobody out there like you. I definitely want people to tap into their quirks or their quirkiness. You're fun. Like I know people that LARP live action role play. That's not something that I would do, but I'm like, yo, dude, that's so dope. And there's people out there that do that. There's pickleballers. I didn't know pickleball was a thing a year and a half ago. And I actually was like making fun of people that were playing it once I started learning it. And I was like, oh crap. Here I am almost 2 years later, and I am like part of the pickleball club. I'm going to like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's my quirky. And like other people might think I'm a dork for doing it, but I'm having fun. And then ultimately, I'm getting business from it too. So find your quirky and just stick with it.
I love that. And that kind of is a good segue to the next thing that I highlighted in your book. Because you talk about, okay, you say your path to your dream life isn't going to be a direct straight line. And don't be surprised if you doubt yourself along the way. Part of this process is about reprogramming your self-sabotage tendencies and unlocking new potential within yourself. So I think that's really important because I think that you're you're gonna go through things, right? We didn't come into this life to have everything handed to us or have everything go perfectly. You don't grow, you don't learn from that. Like you have to go through things to understand yourself better, to know where you're meant to be. That's why when I started real estate, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna, and then I realized pretty quickly I don't really like open houses and I don't like being gone on the weekends. I want to watch the Seahawks beat the Broncos on Sundays instead. And we're gonna go back and forth like this the whole time. Um, no, so I just really realized like I don't like working nights, I don't like working weekends. I like my, work-life balance, but a lot of agents love that and they don't want to do all the other tasks that maybe need to be done Monday through Friday. And I found that that was where I could shine, is that I'm really good at this part and I could offer that. And it wasn't, what I originally set out to do. As a matter of fact, like when I was 19, this is another thing I connected with in your story. When I was 19, I was like, what am I meant to do? Where am I supposed to be, right? Like, what is my purpose? And I remember taking a test that told me that I was supposed to be a teacher or a teacher of teachers or something like that. And so I took it very personally, like God was speaking to me, and I was like, okay, I didn't even graduate high school, which is like really insane. Okay, I got kicked out of school in as a sophomore. And then yeah, and then I went on and I paid for my own way to get my high school diploma and my AA degree through a community college. And I never even got my AA degree, which is I might be the only person in the history of the University of Washington that got accepted without a high school diploma or an AA degree. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I could have had my AA degree, but I ended up applying to UW and everything like that. So it's kind of a crazy situation. But then I went down this path that paid all this money. It took me 10 years until I was ready to, step into that role. And then I didn't do it. Because once I needed to go to do my master's degree, then there was another $60,000 that needed to be spent and another 5 years that had to happen. And it was going to be not in the field that I wanted because I really wanted to teach psychology because that had a huge impact on me.
Mm.
And so it didn't go as planned. And then I ended up somehow, I feel a little duped, but I feel like it was led still into this selling real estate coaching gig. And I felt like I was meant to be there and that brought me, into my place. But I took those steps and it wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing. And I felt like if I never became a teacher, then I wasn't following what I was meant to do. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah.
But the path like twisted and turned, and now I know that I am right where I'm meant to be. And so I think that people need to understand that. Like, it's not always going to go as planned. There's going to be some shit that hits the fan. Sorry,
Mhm.
but we're all adults. Things are going to happen, and you got to just roll with it. And you got to know, like, the conviction and the confidence in yourself. If you're doing things the right way, if you're following through on the things that you're meant to do. So that was something I wanted to add. But I would like you, we have a few more minutes here. I'd like you to tell us, what do you think brought you to writing this book, and, helping other agents like this?
Yeah, kind of just to piggyback on your soliloquy. Honestly, it's been 10 years. People, I guess in 4 years, people are like, oh my gosh, you reached this level of success, but it wasn't 4 years. It was 6 years before that. I had to start somewhere. And so I was working in the restaurant industry and for 8 years. And 2017 was probably the most pivotal year of my life. I started to really make decisions based on the things that I wanted to do, based on things that I saw from my life. And I had a year of like, I don't want to say selfish, but I chose to be intentional about myself, right? Um, and so and still, even in that, I was still scared to take the leap. So I still worked 2 more years at the restaurant. After I just having this moment of like, I don't want to do this anymore, and so it took about 2 more years for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna fly. And honestly, it was COVID. With respect to everybody who lost during COVID, I'd say that COVID was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me because it forced me out of my comfort zone. And so I've always had this book in the back of my mind, this concept of just one layup. All you need is just one layup, right? Something to start to build momentum, something that you can do every day on a consistent basis to build momentum so that you can take the big shot, right? And this book was originally supposed to be for sports, like kids in sports, middle school, high school, college athletes, and retiring sports people, right? So that they can take what you learn from the NFL or take what you learn from the NBA and apply it to real life. Not not real life, but civilian life, if you will, right? Um and so that's where the book started. And then when I got into real estate, I was like, oh my gosh, like this concept of just one layup can definitely apply to real estate agents. I mean, one thing that ticks me off about our industry and probably entrepreneurship in general is this notion of one size fits all, right? Oh, just buy this one website and you'll be the top agent in your industry, or just pay for these leads and you'll be the top. It doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't, because I'm different from Sarah and Sarah's different from Debbie. And you know what I mean? We're all so different that what may work for me will not or may not work for you. And so finding who you are, and that's why this book is so important, finding out who you are so that you can build your specific playbook so that you can be successful. I think that's what's needed in our industry. It's filled with, oh, just do 10 open houses in the next 5 days and you will be successful. Well, what if I'm scared of open houses? What if I live in Washington and it's 4 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, it's pitch black and I'm, a 105 pound, young lady who's afraid to be at an open house by myself? Am I asked out? Am I not going to be successful? What are the things that I can do to be successful? And that's what I hope to answer for a lot of people in this book.
Well, I think it's awesome. And I also, I love how you relate it not only to real estate, like this can apply to just about anything, like you said. And I mean, it's incredible insight. Like this industry can be kind of selfish too. Like at least I've experienced that where people don't want to share all the goodies that you share in this book, right? Like people are like, "Oh, that's, I came up with that thing." And there's a lot of copycatting and things like that too, which I understand. Like people listen to this and then they'll go out and talk about what we said as if it's their own. So I always like to give credit where credit is due. And I think that what you've come up with here in this book is really awesome. It's a easy read, it's a good read. I think you guys should pick it up if you are in real estate or even if you're not. And I wouldn't be scared of the references to it being sounding like it's meant for sports. So far, I mean, even if you're not into sports, you'll be good. I did name a course completely based off of football. I'm such a big Seahawks fan. Um, all of it was like, oh, pregame huddle, and I think I need to change that, to be honest with you, because I'm like, people probably think it's all about football, but it's not. It's totally real estate. But I was just like such a big fan. So I just want to make that clear that it is like, it's been such a awesome book to add to my repertoire. And I think that everybody should go run and get it. If anybody has any questions, we have time for a few questions, I think, unless you have to be somewhere. Does anybody want to come off? Have questions for Devante? Anyone? I think we're good. No questions today. Well, it is the week before Christmas, so I appreciate you being on here. I know you speak at a lot of events, right? What's your next event? Where can people find you?
My next event, what is it? Oh crap! You caught me off guard. It's probably on my calendar, I'm sure.
I would hope so.
It's on my calendar. Ask my assistant. She just tells me, where to go. But I see Debbie in here, and Fresno was such a fun event. I went to Fresno, spoke in Fresno earlier this year, and that was amazing. It was ridiculously hot, 115. So that was gross.
That's the whole summer, especially the month of July.
Oh man, yeah, but it was so.
You don't leave your house.
Yeah, no, especially so I'm a Washington boy through and through. So anything above 75, and it's like, you can count me out.
And raised in Alaska.
I need that. So yeah, my next speaking event, you can just if you follow me on Instagram or if you go to my website www.devanteblow.com, you'll see all the upcoming events, and yeah, we have fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. This is Keeping It Real Estate with me, Sara Delansig, and that's Devante Blow. Go get his book, Just One Layup. Check it out. Merry Christmas.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.